drive the 13 Mitigator Ford Fusion. I'd like to thank you for listening to Let's Talk Racing.tv.
Jr., driver of the number 5 Kiker Motorsports Camry. Welcome to Let's Talk Racing TV.
With Rockingham Speedway. Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Racing.
I'm Tiffany Peters, driver of the number 17 Toyota in the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series, and you're listening to Let's Talk Racing.
Hey guys, I'm Daytona 500 winner Trevor Bain, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing.
You have him already on there listening. I'd like to welcome everybody to Let's Talk Racing. See, I already watching the thing. I knew you needed to get on the button over there.
Welcome to Let's Talk Racing. Ronnie Bassett Jr. How you doing?
Hey, how about you guys?
We're doing good. This is Jack Dodson. I got Al Pearce, Scott Allen, and Roger Brehm here tonight. And we're all going to talk to you about that win you got this past weekend.
Perfect. I appreciate you guys getting me on the show.
Well, tell us all about that. Tell us about that move you put on Lee Pulliam at the end of that race.
Well, it's one of the things, you know, I felt like we had a quicker race car. We had a caution there with 8 to go. And, you know, we put the bumper to them, but we didn't wreck them, and we didn't wreck our equipment or his equipment, and come out on top. It's definitely a cool deal to win one of the biggest races of my career.
And you were running up front just about the whole day. I watched you really close. You were right there just about all day. Were you in a mode of trying to save your tires there? Because they keep telling me, I talked to a lot of guys there the other day, and they said, you know, the tire thing was, the tire situation is really bad there as far as you got to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, you know, we stayed right there in the top 5 just about the whole day. I felt like being able to stay in the top 5 was good. We didn't get our foot tore up. We didn't get we were able to keep the tires on the race car without spinning them, without having to race anybody. You know, Kenley is one of the easiest tracks to save tires, I guess you could say. It's really gripped up. You know, you go somewhere like Hickory or Tri-County, it's really tough. It's wore out, no grip, and it's the total opposite at Southern National. Like I said, we kept the fenders on it and rear tires, and at the end of the race, I felt like we had the better race car. We would get the victory.
I think, you know, there towards the end of the race, you and Matt McCall were probably the 2 best cars out there at the end of the race. I know Deke fell back, and Lee, I don't know if Lee had as good of tires as you did there at the end or not, but he seemed to not, after about 15 laps or so, he would always seem to fall back.
Yeah, that was one thing we worked on all weekend was the long race stuff. We knew 200 laps, the tires was going to be big. We had old set of tires on all weekend. We mocked up once or twice, and we were trying to get that 3 grand for the pole, but we settled with 7, and we kept our tires on it, kept the equipment in good shape, and at the end of the race, we had a good race car, and we was able to go race for the win. You know, Deke had a really good race car, Lee had a good car, and Matt, I mean, he had a good car as well. There was all the cars that were in the top 5 had really good cars. They were all fast, big names.
And, you know, I was amazed that there were several cautions, but nothing really major in the whole race. I mean, it seemed like everybody was pretty much running pretty good and staying pretty, you know, consistent all through the race.
Yeah, I was expecting a few more cautions than what there was. I was glad there was a short amount of cautions. Although we did ride around a bunch of caution laps, so you know, but there was only 7 cautions, I believe, in the whole entire race. With 200 laps, I don't think that's bad. You had the best race car drivers up there, and that showed you that they were all the best, and they deserve to be out there.
All right. Now, a lot of people probably don't know a whole lot about you from this area where we are now. give us a little background on Ronnie Bassett Jr. and tell us where he started racing and how he got started and all that up to now.
I started racing Cinderellas when I was 8 years old. My dad, he raced a Bowman Grading Fairway in the late model series. And then, like I said, when I turned 8, he set it down and allowed me to start racing. And when I turned 12, I moved to Legend Cars, and I run them for 2 or 3 years. And moved into the Linda Late Model, ran at Caraway as well. And shortly after we started running the UARE Tour, I was one of the youngest drivers at 13 or 14 to ever run. And we contended in it for the Rookie of the Year and ended up finishing second. But we've run the tour the past 4 years, and we stepped out to open our doors and run some NASCAR races and try to hit all the big racetracks as far as payout and big races with all the big names. So you got to get out there with the best, make yourself better. And hopefully next year we're going to run the K&N schedule. That'll be a different stepping stone for Bassett Racing as far as in the first K&N car out of our shop.
Do you say you're going to run the K&N series next year? Have you got all your sponsorship and everything lined up and everything's ready to go, and you're going to be doing it, as a family team?
Yes, sir. We're always looking for more sponsorship. The more the better. The more racing we can do, and the better we can equip our equipment. And you never find enough sponsors. So anybody out there willing to help us, we're looking for it.
All right, now tell us the difference between. I don't know what you did at Myrtle Beach. I wasn't at Myrtle Beach. How did you fare at Myrtle Beach?
We qualified 12th and ended up starting 17th overall. The people that were locked in, and ended up the main train in the rear end broke. So ended our day pretty early, 50 laps to the races. It was disappointing, being there 4 days practicing and come down to race time when it's time to go, and something like that happened. It's unfortunate, but it's one of the things in racing that you move on with and make yourself better over it and try to win the next one.
Is it when you're racing at places like Myrtle Beach and you're down there for 4 days, are you all concerned very much about how much time you put on the motor and your equipment as far as getting to Sunday to the big race?
Well, when you show up for the big races, you pretty much equip your equipment to the best of the best, get everything freshened up and ready to go for the big races. That way, when you get there, you can go all out and practice as much as you need to adjust the car to the best it can be. And it's one of the things like rear end. It's just a misfortune. It's nothing that we can help. It's just wear and tear, like I said, after being in the race car for several years, and it's one of the things you never expect to break. But it happens in racing.
Well, who all have you had for sponsors this year? Give them a shout out while we're talking about it, and tell us all about your sponsors from this year.
Come back with that.
Who all have you had sponsoring you this year? Give them a little shout out and thank them and whatever, and so we'll know who your sponsors were.
We've had Rain come on board this year. They've helped out a lot. It's been a privilege to have them on the car. Representative Art Gallery, my parents, they're the big part of it. They're the ones that make it all happen. My dad works every day. That way me and my brother both can race. And Big Oil, they've helped supply rear ends and all that stuff. It's just maintenance on the race cars. And Robert and Charlie Long for keeping us updated on the motors and all the horsepower we can get. Just everybody, Lord for keeping us safe over the year and allowing us to do what we love to do. And, it's just everybody. It's a team thing. Everybody in the race shop. Chris Austin, my crew chief, Seth Smith, Dylan's crew chief, everybody. It takes the whole organization to work.
I've got a question. This is Al Pearce. I've been covering NASCAR. I've been covering racing a long time, and I need to ask you this. How often next season will you and Lee race each other? How many weekends a year, or will you see him at just big events, or will y'all race against each other quite a bit next year?
Well, Lee, I feel like he's going to be running these for the National Championship again, the late model stuff, and like I said before, we're going to move on to the K&N East, and my brother, he'll be running every weekend with Lee pretty much. Lee runs Stop Boston, Motor Mile, Kinley, all the big races. Dylan, he'll run with them just about every weekend, but on our off weekends, we'll run the late model stuff. And we'll be at the big race, and we'll be there competing with us. Best of the best.
I guess what I'm getting at is this. Next year when you see him for the first time, or the second time, or when y'all race against each other, will you have in the back of your mind the idea that he probably is thinking he owes you one? And will you race any differently knowing that he may be thinking, first chance I get, I'm going to turn him? Or do you just kind of figure what goes around comes around and everybody kind of starts fresh on January 1st?
Well, you know, he'll definitely be thinking about it next time he races with me. You know, just as well as I'll be thinking about the same thing like he is. You know, if he has a fast race car, and he feels like he can move me to win the race, then I don't blame him. You know, if the race car is picking up and you can get around the guys and drive away from them, I feel like that there's nothing wrong with it. We didn't wreck race cars or tear anything up. It's just one of those things like old racing, you know, bump and run. There's, like I said, nothing tore up, and we'll move on from it, and we'll learn from it.
Okay. Well, my last question is this then. Does everything kind of reset when a new season begins? In other words, again, I take January 1st as being a point at which you say, okay, last year was last year. Everything has been done. It's going to be done. Everything starts brand new today. Is that how race car drivers look at things like that? That once it's done, it's over, and we start all fresh again?
I guess you could in a way. I agree and I disagree. You know, it'll probably be a rivalry. My brother's had some time with him. They've raced hard together, and me and him raced hard together, and you know, it'll probably come back, like I said, in the back of his mind and be there. If he's got to do it to me to win, then he'll do it, I'm sure. But anyway, but I don't know. It probably will. I don't think it'll reset. I think it'll be an ongoing thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you talk to Lee after the race the other day? Because, you know, really, you did probably less than a lot of people would have done to him by just moving him out of the way. But did he ever talk to you after the race?
No, but I did talk to his car owner, Travis Piker, and all the guys that work on his car, and they were all good with it. You know, they all said that it's just a racing thing. If he wouldn't have done the same thing, then it needs to move on and do something different. You know, nobody was mad about it. I personally did not talk to Lee after the race. I didn't think it was a good time to go and talk to him, but you know, we'll probably talk in the future. And like I said, if he wouldn't have done it, then I don't know. I guess it's a racer. If he was a real racer, he'd do the same thing. And from what I've heard in the past, he's done it.
Yeah, he's been known to do that from time to time. But I got to say, you know, from my standpoint, where I was sitting and watching it, it was a good move. I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with what you did.
Yeah, and like I said, it's the same thing they used to do in the NASCAR days. Back in the day, they would move each other out of the way, and you know, they'd go on, they'd feud for a while, and they'd get over it. You know, it's like I said before, we didn't tear up race cars. I did what I had to do to get to the lead, but we didn't tear nothing up, and at the end of the day, we came out on top.
Well, we really appreciate your time tonight, and looking forward to hearing from you next year when you start the K&N series, and we'll get you back on here again and get you settled on, get some information on that for next year.
Well, 10-4, I appreciate you guys having me on the show, and I look forward to coming back.
Now, Ronnie, hold on a second. Now, where are you located? Where do you live?
Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Isn't that where... What's the hot dog place in Winston-Salem? What's the famous hot dog place there? No, really, I'm serious. The Wood brothers told me that they often used to go from Stewart to Winston-Salem just to get hot dogs. They told me where it was, and I can't remember what the name of the place is.
All right, for hot dogs.
Okay, you sit outside. It's just a little tiny little place.
Yep, that's it.
Okay. I got to go by there one day.
What place is this?
It's a place in Winston-Salem where hot dogs are...
What was the name of it? I don't know, something hot dog place.
What was the name of it again, Ronnie?
William.
William, well,
Williams. Okay.
There you
All
go.
right.
all right, okay, that's a hot dog place. I gotta go there.
All right, Ronnie. We appreciate your time tonight. We'll get you back on again next season when you get ready to start the K&N series.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Because see, the reason I ask you is I'm going to welcome next Wednesday for the children's thing.
Oh, okay.
You got to drive through once to Salem. And
So in other words, you're going to bring us hot dogs for next
no, I'm
week?
not going to bring them back. I'm going to eat them while I'm down there.
What good are you going down that way? You ain't gonna bring us
He
nothing
won't be
back.
here next
Back in
Wednesday. If he's
town.
going to go to, if he's going to welcome, he probably won't be here
Is
next
that
Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday, I think, it's the 11th.
Yeah, it's the 11th.
A week from today.
Yeah, it's the 11th.
I'll
Yeah.
call in if you want me to, but
Yeah, let's do that.
the news, I mean, everybody knows what's going on.
Well, I'm not sure what it is. What is it?
One of them Dillon boys has got to deal with somebody to do something in some car number. I don't know.
Are we going to see the number 3 popping out next year in the Cup Series?
I think probably that's a pretty good bet.
Yeah.
being as they've already put some pictures out somewhere that's out
Yeah.
there. I mean, you know, I even had a friend of mine send me a picture of one. So
I seen it. I seen it.
so, I mean, you know. Oh, Anna Marie will not be able to do the show tonight.
Oh, she won't?
She's sick.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. I like her. She's
I
nice.
never stopped her from talking.
Well,
Yeah, you're right.
she said she was really sick. She told me earlier that she was feeling bad. And she was going to come here to do the show.
Oh, what's
Oh.
But then she said, I'm feeling bad. I don't think I can get out of the house. She said, but I'll call. And now she just sent me a message and said, no, look, I can't hardly talk. And being as I spent a whole week with that last week, I understand how that is.
Oh, gosh.
So we got 15 minutes to kill.
At the end, yeah.
At the end.
Oh, at the end.
Actually, we'll have an extra. We can do the racing news at the end then instead of the beginning.
because there's a lot of stuff out there we need to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In that case, we have what? You got to call Kaz then. Where am I at?
So who's next?
Kaz Grala.
This kid's what, from Ohio?
No, he's from
Or
Boston,
Boston.
Massachusetts.
I wonder if he calls it a car or a car.
You know, I talked to him Sunday. I talked to him Sunday.
Well, it just
He's a neat kid.
you
He's a
can
neat
find
kid,
out.
isn't he? Yeah, he's a neat kid.
I like the number on his car, and it's different than, the circle with the 3 in it.
He was going to drive this week for Jay Hedgecock.
Oh, really?
Hedgecocks.
Yeah.
But
Hello, is this Kaz?
the car was just not right.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. This is Roger down Let's Talk Racing. I'm going to put you on hold and we'll switch you over to the main line.
So he must be doing pretty well then, huh? I mean,
All right, stand by.
Jane didn't want to give him a ride.
Should train Al how to do that, you know?
Hell, a monkey could do that.
Well, that's what we got. We got Jack.
I'm saying. You got to feed me first.
I done lost my about that train of thought now.
Kaz.
Are we on speaker?
Hey, Kaz, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I don't know. They threw me off my game here just a minute ago with a conversation. I'm sorry. That was I just lost all train of thought.
Sometimes you're just so easy. That's what your wife told us too.
Well, I ain't gonna go there. So how you doing tonight?
I'm never better. How about you guys?
Never better. That sounds pretty good. How was the trip home the other night?
It was a little bit tough. We drove all night. I had to get to school on Monday. I ended up missing a couple classes, but we made it work.
All right. Well, give us a little background on Kaz Grala and where he came from and how he got started in racing.
Well, my dad used to be a race car driver in the Rolex series in sports cars on road courses.
Cool.
So he knew about racing, which it's not very easy to get into racing if you don't know somebody that's in racing. So he got me a go-kart when I was 4 years old, just like he did Little League and soccer and all that. I played all the regular sports in addition to racing. But I just kind of took to racing. I really loved it. I really started competing when I was 7, and I competed in go-karts till I was 10, at which point I moved up to Bandoleros, and I did that for 2 years. I raced Legends and then Late Models, and that's fine.
Now you were teammates in what, the Legends with David Garbo?
Yes, sir. I was teammates with him for a year in Legend.
All right, now tell me how you got. You and I talked about this Sunday, but tell everybody how you got hooked up with the fathead. I mean, Jamie Yelton.
That's exactly how. I was on Garbo's team in Legend Cars for Dennis Lambert. And Garbo started late models about a year earlier than I did with Jamie. And he said they were a great bunch of guys. So my first late model test ever actually was with them back in 2012, I think it was. And we just love those guys. They set the car up great, and they're just a great bunch of guys.
Will you be going back with them next year, or you and I were talking about you're working on some stuff for next year. Have you got anything finalized or anything worked out yet?
Unfortunately, we're going to have that worked out in a couple days, so hopefully next week we'll have a big announcement coming for next year. But what we're going to be doing is a full season of the K&N East program and the bigger late model races for next year. And we are talking to some people, but next week we'll have it finalized for which teams they'll be running for.
Okay, so Jamie won't be going to K&N, so you're probably with a new team next year.
Yes, sir, in K&N. But we definitely are hoping to run with Jamie in the future next year, and some other teams as well, possibly. We're going to figure that out. But we'd love to run with Jamie. That Myrtle Beach race couldn't have gone much better for us. And, honestly, they're just a great group of guys, so we'd love to work with them going forward.
They seem to have a lot of fun when they're at the racetrack, and they're serious about what to do, but they have a lot of fun there. And I know the fathead. I mean, Jamie. He's a great guy to be around.
He is. It's a lot of fun with those guys.
What is this fathead?
I'm thinking the same
I know,
thing.
he's got something. He's either talking about candy or something.
Kaz, hold on just a second. We need to know who this fathead guy is. The only fathead in this room is the guy doing all the talking. But other than that, who is the fathead?
Jamie Yelton. His race team is called Fathead Racing. Isn't that right, Kaz?
Yes, that's the name of the team.
I'm
not 100% sure on where it came from, but
I can tell you where it came from. Have you ever looked at Jamie's head?
Yeah, the back of it has some fat rolls.
That's where he got his name, and he got that name a long time ago.
And I think his dog's name is Fathead too, I think.
Who?
His dog's name is Fathead.
Well, I don't know about that.
Came from, I think.
But I remember at Hickory a few years ago. I mean, that was the big thing. I mean, everybody called him Fathead.
Yeah.
But you always seemed to get into something at Hickory. Every time something was going on, you always found Jamie in the middle of it.
So he the pot stir?
Yeah, he's kind of like me, I guess.
Okay.
But
well, Kaz, this is Al Pearce. Let me ask you a non-racing question. All right? You ready for this? You still there?
Ready?
Okay. Give me some good words about how well the Patriots are going to play the rest of the year. They're right now 9-3. They're leading the division. Brady's playing great. Gronk is playing well. Edelman's doing okay. What's the deal? Why can't the defense play any better than they are? You got to be a Patriots fan, aren't you?
Yeah, we are New England fans for all sports, but to be honest, we don't follow them very closely.
You know the Red Sox won the World Series, though.
Of course.
Okay, well, I didn't know. And you know that New England won the other day, but they only won 34-31, and they should have just annihilated Houston. So I was hoping to get somebody up that way who might know exactly what's going on with the defense, but hell, if you can't tell me, then what good are you?
Yeah, I don't think I'm your guy for that.
And the Celtics, they got a brand new coach. They got a college kid coaching. The Bruins are pretty good, though. You got to be a hockey fan.
Yeah, hockey is a pretty cool sport.
Okay. And so is racing.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
So you got a place to go eat at for him too, Al, or something?
New England's full of Friendlies. I like Friendlies. They're good restaurants. But a specific place, no.
Well, now you got somebody new that you can find a good place to go to when you're up in that area.
Well,
if you're ever back up in that area.
The best place was in Concord. They closed it down. It was called Foodies. It's a pizza place. And they closed it in Concord, New Hampshire. So, anyway. Now, if you run K&N Series next year, you'll most likely come down to Langley Speedway, I guess. Down our way.
I haven't taken a look at the schedule yet, actually. I think it's coming out soon.
Yeah, but if you do run K&N, you will come to Langley. You'll race in New Hampshire. You'll race at, where else they go? They go to Bristol?
Dover.
Oh.
Dover.
They go to Dover?
Yeah.
I thought K&N also went to Bristol.
East goes to East
Oh,
goes
okay.
to Bristol. Yeah, East goes to Bristol. Yeah, they'll be in Bristol.
Over Bristol, New Hampshire, Richmond, and Iowa are the big tracks.
Right, yeah, they go to Iowa with both East and West. Okay. Now, how old are you? You said you had to get back in time for school on Monday. How old are you?
I'm only 14 years old. I'm
Okay,
in
okay.
high school.
Okay, that's cool. That's fine. Everybody's got to be 14 at some point. But here's the question I ask a lot of young men at your age. Have you or your family established any sort of timetable or schedule? Okay, for example, do you want to be out of the K&N Series by the time you're 16 or 17? Do you want to be racing trucks by the time you're 18 or 19? Do you have any kind of a schedule for how you move up the NASCAR ladder?
Well, I'm not sure if we have so much a schedule as more, it's probably better described as a dream. Honestly, we just have to play it by ear and see at what point there's a team that would like me in the next series. But, I mean, I think it's every kid's dream to be in Nationwide or Cup at 18, so of course I'd love to do that, but the more realistic option would be by 18 I probably want to be in trucks, just to make sure I don't end up getting too old to move up the ladder. So 18 for trucks seems to be about a good age.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, is Daytona still having the Battle of the Beach for the K&N?
Yeah.
So you going to go to that?
Yeah, you can go to Daytona for that backstretch, that thing they call the Battle of the Beach, or whatever it is. They had the K&N cars. I think last year they had K&N modified and
late models.
Late models.
Late models, yeah.
Yeah, this year I don't think they're going to have the late models. I think it's going to be either just K&N or just K&N and modified.
K&N
Okay.
Modified, yeah.
Actually run it last year in the late model.
Don't be leading on the last lap.
Yeah. Now, in fact,
Seems not
none
to be a good thing.
of the drivers who took the white flag last year were leading when they came back around.
No, I mean, I'd say barely even finished.
Well, yeah, some of them finished. I think. Well, you may be right. They may. Well, no, because CE Falk
Yeah,
finished third.
CE finished third.
CE
Yeah.
finished third.
Well, it was so close to the flags.
Yeah.
Got taken out into turn one on the last lap.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's
Little racetrack.
the place is flat as a table, so it's kind of hard to excuse somebody from doing that. But anyway.
Kaz, how disappointing was it Sunday to not be able to run that race Sunday? Were you really disappointed with it?
Well, I was disappointed, but I would have rather watched the race than ended up wrecking the race, to be honest. I did have a great time watching the race. Congrats to Ronnie Bassett. But I was happier watching it than wrecking, because nobody likes to have a day where they wreck. I would have been coming from the back of the last chance qualifier trying to make it in, since we got into a little bit of a scuffle with the car that spun out in the heat race. So we would have been starting last, and that kind of just would have been a wreck fest. So I don't think that really would have been the best decision for us to run that.
Well, you got to be able to keep your equipment going, and I understand the situation. You and I talked about it down there, so. But go ahead and give your sponsors and everybody that helps you out a shout out while you got a chance, and tell us everything about you that you need to get out there, and hopefully next week you can let us know about your what you got worked out for next year.
Of course. Well, I gotta thank my parents, obviously, for making this possible. My sponsor, Oslink, and just everyone who has helped making my cars as fast as they can make them. And everybody stay tuned for sure next week for that big announcement.
Well, you know, if you make that big announcement next week, you might not want to make it on Wednesday. You might pick another day other than Wednesday, because as you may or may not know, on Wednesday, Richard Childress Racing is going to have a big press conference in North Carolina to announce that Austin Dillon will be driving the number 3 car in Cup next year. And trust me, as a media guy, I can tell you this. Everybody with a pen, a tape recorder, a VCR, or a camcorder will be at Richard Childress next Wednesday. So you might want to look at another day.
You still got VCRs?
No, what else? I meant
DVR?
Yeah, something that you film with. Anyway,
digital camera.
The point being, you'll get a lot more attention on a day other than Wednesday, because the whole world will be in North Carolina looking at Austin Dillon getting into 3 cars. So, just some friendly advice.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, Kaz, we really appreciate your time, and I'll get with you again, and be sure you tell Fathead I want to talk to him too.
Of course. I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
Wait, one more question. Now, where are you located, actually?
I live in the Boston area in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. So you know that there are 2 famous NASCAR drivers who have come from Massachusetts already.
Yes, sir.
Pete Hamilton's one of them, who won the Daytona 500, and the Bouchard brothers, Ron and Ken, are the others. I think Ron won a Talladega race.
Yep.
So two Cup drivers from Massachusetts have had some success, but not lately. Nobody lately. Ricky Craven's from Maine.
Well, he's going to change that.
Yeah, well, you can change all that. But Ricky Craven's from Maine.
Who's that?
Who else is from up that way that runs? That's maybe the only guy. Ricky Craven's the guy I'm thinking about.
Logano's from...
Well, Logano's from Connecticut, yeah, but that's women's basketball country. you don't care about him.
Hey, Kaz, do they still have Filene's Bargain Basement out there?
I'm sorry?
Do they still have Filene's Bargain Basement out there?
Not that I've seen.
It's a department store in Boston, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the downstairs, the bargain basement,
Yeah,
everything's cut like down to 10%.
He probably doesn't shop there.
Oh, well, what can I say?
You sound like an LL Bean guy. Okay.
All right, man. We appreciate it. You see, we have a good time when we come on here.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Go have a lobster for me.
If you got Pete's number, you might want to send him a text.
Who's the next victim?
Pete Silva.
Well, I don't know that I got Pete's number, to tell you the truth.
How'd you get up with him?
We did a little bit of everything, to be honest with you.
Do it on Facebook?
We did Facebook.
And when a few years back, I went up to Boston to visit my ex-wife's sister and their family up there, and took a weekend and went up there to Boston and did some shopping at Filene's Bargain Basement. When they put fresh stuff out there, the women will sit there and change their clothes in the aisles. When they bring fresh stuff from downstairs, put it downstairs for sale, girls will be coming in and taking off clothes, trying the other stuff on. Crazy.
That sounds like Walmart on Black Friday.
Try this number.
What?
I'm surprised. Oh, Kaz didn't really have that.
Yeah, you're gonna say it out loud, right?
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
He did not sound like a.
I was waiting for him to
Like
say
a Yankee.
the car.
The first one.
What about the other one?
That's his cell number. He said if you don't get him there, call that. But y'all go ahead and talk.
Really, I was getting ready to say.
No, we're talking about you trying to find this guy to talk to.
I know you heard of Pete Silva.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I said, who is Pete? I don't know who Pete is.
He's no kin to Ronnie Silva.
No.
It's a different breed of cat altogether.
Yeah, he used to run in the Nationwide series.
Yeah, not much. Mostly a northern guy.
Yeah.
Was it Nationwide or Bush Grand National back then?
Well, it's listed as Nationwide, but it was Bush Grand National when he was doing it.
Yeah, is this Pete? Pete, this is Roger from Let's Talk Racing. How you doing tonight? Pretty good. I'm gonna put you on hold, switch over to the main line. We get cranking.
The monkey's gonna do
No,
this.
no.
You sure you got it right this time?
I'm just watching. I'm learning.
Welcome to Let's Talk Racing. This is Jack Dodson with Roger Brehm and Al Pearce and Scott Allen, and we're glad to have you along, Pete.
Glad to be here. Did you say Al Pearce?
I did.
Uh-oh!
Yeah, I remember that name.
Uh-oh.
Is that good or bad?
Well,
Tell us, please tell us. We're ready for this.
and I won't tell you how much you paid me to say that either.
How much snow you got up there?
Well, listen, I'm in Florida. The only store around
Oh,
here
my
is in my
God.
hair.
You're in Florida?
Yes.
Thought you were in Maine.
Well, I am from Maine.
Oh, I know, but you're not there today, so there.
That's good. You're quick.
All right, I can tell you we're going to need him back on again.
What, did it run you out of Maine to make you go to Florida?
That's it. It's all downhill.
No, seriously, where are you in Florida?
I'm in Dade City, Florida, next to Zephyr Hills.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
But
Zephyr Hills is where David Rubin's from.
yes, yes,
David and Buzzy are from there.
that's exactly right.
Oh, okay, okay.
Touching on the main deal, we just came back from the Turkey Rod Run at Daytona. 35 degrees on Thursday, so it was probably warmer in Maine than it was in Florida.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So, are you down there going to go out to the snowball, see the snowball derby?
No, I've got to be somewhere else. I was going to go help a guy by the name of Kerry Lawrence racing exhaust system. He's going to try to go there and race. I was going to go help him, but it didn't work out. But it sounds like they have a lot of entries. I think I checked the Facebook page on it a little while ago, and they were up to 119 haulers or something like that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them up there.
Astronomical number.
Pete, give everybody a little background on you and your racing and what all you've done and a little along the way, so we can go from there.
Well, obviously, pretty well been established. I'm from Maine.
You sure about that?
Waterville, Maine. It's about 20 miles north of Augusta, the capital. My father raced through the 50s locally at some local tracks throughout Maine, so it was obvious that I was probably going to do it. And started in the 70s, a little racetrack called Unity Raceway. Ricky Craven's home track, by the way, and Andy Santiers. I'm sure you know those names.
Oh, yeah.
And ended up after a few years and kind of hit a little bit of a stride. We picked up the local Budweiser distributor as a sponsor, and we had a few good years in a row. Decided to step it up. We bought a used Bush Grand National North, got NASCAR North at the time, and ran it a few times and had motor problems and ended up going to Banjos. Actually went to Junior Johnson's because he was running the Bush car at the time and showed up there on a Monday morning like we knew what we were doing. And he took us in. I asked him if he'd build us a motor, and actually he said he would, but we didn't need it. It would be too heavy, and he drove us. He'd only known us about 20 minutes and took us to Banjo Matthews and ordered a motor for us. I tell people when it comes to meeting people in the South, I started on the top of the mountain and worked my way down. The first, was Junior Johnson and Banjo Matthews. I guess that's cream of the crop, so to speak. When, I guess, later in that year or the following year, I crashed a new banjo car and we took it back to get it fixed. And by the time we had it repaired, it was too late to go home. And I ran a race at Hickory and did pretty well, and it was a big deal for Yankee to do well. And I'll never forget the promoter. It was Hal Hamrick at the time.
Oh, yeah.
It was a 200 lapper. I'd never time trialed in my life, and I think we qualified third and ran third or fifth. And they got quite quick out of the Yankee situation, and I think I ended up getting on a tire deal, on an appearance money deal, and a hotel room if I stayed. So I thought I'd found a race in heaven, and stayed for the next few years and ran Hickory in Asheville and got on a Budweiser series, which was before the Busch series, and ran that a little bit, and ran the Busch series a little bit, and ended up moving back home and ran the Busch North series again, won a couple of those races, and ended up going back down south. I went to spend a weekend with Robert Presley and moved back down south again and ran a little bit of everything. Ran a few Busch races, a few all-pro races, a bunch of super late model races, and a bunch of late model stock car races. Yeah, around Hickory, Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, and a little bit of Tennessee. And we had a little bit of luck. We won a few races and a few championships. And then the next thing I knew, I was too old to do it.
No, you're never too old.
Well,
Pete, let me ask you a couple of questions. Appropriately so, rightfully so, Richie Evans was one of the early inductees into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Were you beginning to worry a little bit that a Busch Series or Nationwide or late model driver kept getting passed over and passed over? And I'm speaking, of course, of Jack Ingram. And Jack finally got in to this coming year's class. In your mind, was Jack Ingram, without question, the most deserving late model driver that they could have considered, or would maybe somebody else have been better to go in early?
I don't know. You know, love him or hate him, I mean, he has the numbers to be there. And if you were going to put somebody up against him, so to speak, for that position of going in first, who would it be? Maybe Sam Ogg?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, there was no debate whatsoever when Richie Evans went in early as the first so-called weekly track inductee. But I was talking to some people the other day, and they were thinking that either Sam Ard or Jack Ingram would most definitely have been. You know, either one would have been appropriate. So you raced against both those guys a whole lot, didn't you?
Oh yes, I raced against them. I've hung around with them. Both are worthy of the award, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think Jack won more championships over a longer period of time.
Right. Yes.
Sam had a greater impact when he really got rolling. He did more in a shorter span of time than Jack probably did. But if you want to start from a beginning to an end, Jack probably had a longer career of success, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's not to take away from Sam, because I have the utmost respect for him.
Right. I understand. Let me tell you what. Let me ask you another question. How good was Butch Lindley?
He's as good as everybody says he was, and he was as good a person as everybody says he was.
Yeah.
You know, you always have little particular moments that stand out about different people that you remember, good or bad. And I can remember I hit a low spot in '83. I was trying to do my own stuff, and I mean, I was at wit's end. You know, like everybody that tries to do that, the pocket is empty quick. And I was just down. You know, you keep plugging along, but you're just down. And the first and only guy probably that showed up and spent time trying to get me through it in conversation was Butch. Just out of nowhere, you know, it's like somebody pulled on a light switch and there he was and trying to coax me along and get pumped up again. I'll always remember that. You know, there's a lot of people out there they could have gone and talked to or been in another spot at another time, and they took the time. He took the time to come do that. And to me, that speaks volumes as a person. And now going back to the racing part of it, he was sort of cool hand Luke, you know, as smooth as silk. Could do anything in a race car and make it look easy.
I remember there were days back in the '80s, maybe late '70s, when Butch and Ray Hendrick and Sonny Hutchins and Bill Dennis and Tommy Ellis and Al Grinnan and some other guys would come to Langley Speedway maybe twice a month, and they would put on some of the damnedest shows you've ever seen. When you had right there at one time as good a group of short track racers as has ever been, with that group right there, and obviously L.D. Ottinger came with them, Gene Glover came in, Harry Gant came in, Morgan came in, you were certainly there, Ronnie Silva came in, and of course Jack and Sam were there. So I mean, people now talk about how good short track racing is, and in many places I'm sure it is good, but boy, there was a time when everybody who's anybody would go to the same place every weekend and put on tremendous shows. And I don't know that you get that like you used to, because people kind of pick and choose where they go now.
Well,
Back then, everybody went everywhere.
That's right, and you saw Tommy Houston and Bob Presley in that.
Well, yeah, I knew I'd miss somebody. Tommy Ellis,
Miss somebody.
got to throw him in there too.
But the reason it's easy to miss somebody is because there were so many of them that came back.
Yeah, yep. Jimmy Hensley's got to be thrown in that group.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you know of a guy named Joey Carafas?
Friend of mine.
Joey, you know, I guess you know this, in the mid-'70s, Joey moved down here and was going to try to race out of Hampton. The promoter down here, Joe Carver, hired Joey to do some work around the racetrack and kind of employ him. And Carver always thought that if Joey had stayed in the South and had taken advantage of some of the opportunities, he would have been far better off than he was when he went back north. But, you know, you never know. These things happen for a reason.
I think a lot of it's timing and luck and how much you can stand, you know, to get to that point. I mean, look at myself. There wasn't a plan to do one thing we did other than race in the north. And I mean, we ended up with a banjo car and banjo motors, so we thought we had the top line stuff in the north. I ended up in the south by accident. In the second week here, I won the race. It was a 150 lapper and had to race Bob Presley and won the race. He beat me the next week, and then I won the next 3 in a row. I mean, that was unheard of. And I didn't have a plan. It was just timing and luck. And obviously, by the second week, Bob's oldest son, Charlie, left him and come to help me. If that hadn't happened, none of it would have happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, you know, his nickname used to be Charlie Chastity, and rightly so. And going back to Joey, now, he was a bush-friendly type person, good person and very smooth. But once again, timing, luck, and opportunity.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more thing, then I'll kind of get off the air here. For those people who don't remember much about it, tell us how big a deal the Oxford 250 used to be.
I feel back in those days, and somewhat even now, if you were a racer, back in the days that you're talking about in this conversation, a racer went where the money was and where the best drivers were. And in those days you're talking about, I don't care if you were in Alaska or where you were, in the United States, if you had a car that could compete, you were a racer with that kind of heart, you hauled, somehow you got your race car to Oxford Plains Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Martinsville was in the glory days, 130 or 40 cars in the pit. And there was no time trials, it was all heat racing. And I mean, the heat races were a war fest on their own, but I just think it was the kind of race, it was sort of like the short track Daytona. I'm sure you've heard it called.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But and rightly so. If you won that, who was left to beat anywheres other than the 250? I mean, you know, you go back to the people you just said: Bo Dine, Lindley, Bob Presley, Tommy Houston, Harry Gant, Jack Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was nobody left. They were all there at one time. They weren't spread out at 5 different tracks. They were all there that weekend. Paid $25,000 a win and $25,000 in lap money or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting, Pete, that even as far away as we live here in Virginia from Oxford, every year about the time as Oxford began to get closer, you would hear drivers at Langley and Southside in South Boston talking about getting ready to go to Oxford. They were going to skip a weekend to get ready for Oxford. And it was, I mean, Oxford Plains was every bit the historic venue for short track drivers as Indy was, as Le Mans, as Monte Carlo. You take any other series in the world, they had tracks and venues that people associated with that series. Oxford was always the place for late model drivers, even more so than Martinsville. So it was a big deal for a long time.
I think that's a good assessment, and I think what really covers is what you just said. People would take a week off to get ready for it.
Yeah.
How many other races did they do that? You know, they got ready to go to. Just was a great race and a great promoter that took care of the drivers.
Yeah, Bob Bear was one of a kind.
Yeah, I just think some of those old-time promoters, you know, they might have had their own dealings going with money here or there, but I think they took care of their people. And I know for a fact, you know, even when I first got there, when I had problems, wreck or something, somehow they showed up to help ease the financial pain to make, you know, get your car repaired and get you back. You don't see that anymore, or I haven't heard of it anyway.
Yeah. Did you ever have much dealings with Joe Carver at Langley?
No, I knew him, but, you know, I've been up there to race, and I love the place.
Yeah.
That place used to, what was the next division down up there? What was it called?
Oh, Grandstock?
Yes, that was some of the most exciting racing I ever saw.
Yeah, yeah.
Talk about people in the bleachers, they'd be hanging off the light bulbs. That was a great place.
Well, you helped, you know, you and a lot of people that, a lot of fans have kind of, you know, it's really a shame that those of us who are of a certain age, and I'm older than everybody in this room put together almost, the old people remember those days and those nights. We remember Butch Lindley and Sam Ard and Jack Ingram and Harry and Morgan. We remember those things, and a lot of these younger fans just, they have no clue how good you guys were. And you can't really convince them how good y'all were, because all they think about is Dale Jr. and this guy and that guy and that guy. But I mean, you guys are the ones who really kind of got NASCAR going toward what it was. And I don't know if y'all like what it is now, but y'all had a lot to do with, when I say y'all, I mean that entire group we've talked about. Y'all helped get NASCAR where it is. It's a shame that they don't recognize that more than they do.
Yeah, I don't think they appreciate what those drivers were as a group. Every group of people thinks their era was better than the next era or whatever. But that era back then, I mean, do you see a Tony Ellis anywhere right now? Or a Ray Hendricks, or a Sam Ard, or a Jack Ingram? And I'm not trying to put the series down.
Yeah, you're right now. No, you're right.
Stock cars I'm talking about. I mean, you've got the K&N series, and you've got the Busch series, which is full of cup cars, and a lot of people that's trying. But I don't think they understand the war zone that was created by that many good drivers at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally was a war zone. Those people, you know, these guys get paid big bucks now, and they deserve it. But back then, that 2 hours in the evening was going to feed the family, so to speak, back in those days. And it had to happen. They had to make it happen. And I don't think they understand the intensity and the drive that was going on at that time. I know you got to have it all now, but that group back then, you know, as you're saying, it was the pioneer of the sport, so to speak. I know there were generations before it, but that particular group you're talking about, you could sit and talk for half an hour about different names, I believe.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Involved in, they could have won the race, or races anywhere. I feel, you know, it took years for me to really realize what a group of people I was part of in the racing cycle. I didn't appreciate it. Now, obviously, like a lot of people probably now, you sit back and you have a different appreciation for a lot of things that happened in your life. But that was one. That and working at banjos. I didn't realize, you know, what an era that was. And then now I think back and get up from welding on the snow and look at the 11 car on the front, on the service plate, or the Wood Brothers, or Bud Moore's, or the Skoal Bandit. I think everything's just happening at that time, and you're part of it. You don't really appreciate it until it's over and it's gone. And that era of racing you're talking about seems to be gone.
You know, you mentioned Harry Gant and the Skoal Bandit. I did a story for my magazine, Autoweek, last summer about Harry, and you may be aware of this, but a lot of people aren't. Harry Gant was 40 years old. Think about that. He was 40 years old when he got his first full-time cup ride. Nowadays, if you don't have a full-time cup ride at 25, you're probably done.
They didn't want you until you almost wore out from running short track.
Yeah.
Robert Presley asked me, I guess it was around 2000, he came by one night, we were getting ready to go to the races, and he said, why do they want these kids now over the experience? And my only reply was, and I've been thinking about it for a while, was, I think they want to get these kids so young they can make the habit, rather than trying, as they get older, like I was just talking about, somebody that's raced the short tracks for 20 years with a lot of bad habits. It's easier to mold habits than try to teach somebody to break their bad habits. And I really didn't know how else to look at it or explain it.
Well, a lot of it, I think, Pete, has got to do with marketing. They figure a 25-year-old kid selling a product might appeal more to the demographic they're looking for than a 35-year-old. You know, some clean-cut young kid that maybe doesn't shave but once a week or so, he might turn on more fans than a somewhat grizzled old guy who may be far better talent. He may be a far, far better race car driver, but he may not appeal to the audience like the young kid will. And that, sadly enough, that may be part of the deal.
So you're trying to tell me us old guys aren't pretty anymore?
No. Listen, I'm way older than you are, so, you know, I mean, but you know what I mean. It looks like they use them for marketing so much more than they used to, and they've got to fit that demographic.
Right, they don't have any choice. Listen, we're going to be gone pretty soon, the diehards, and I think the young market, you've got to get them in and try to keep them, you know, through the duration of a few decades.
But those kids today, Pete, have never raced. They've never raced without power steering.
That's true.
They've never raced without spotters and two-way radios. They never raced with the things you guys race with. So how do we know that they're as good as y'all were? I don't think they are. But everybody wants to compare. They want to say, is Jimmy Johnson the best race car driver ever? Well, you can't compare him to Petty and Earnhardt or Junior Johnson or Herb Thomas or Buck Baker. You can't compare them because they didn't race against each other.
Well, that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He's the best of his era, but there have been so many eras you can't say he's the best overall.
No, he's the best under these circumstances.
Right.
The one thing I will give him, and we were talking about this the other day, because everybody likes to crap on him, and because of some of the things you're just talking about. But under the old point system, he still would have won this championship by 41 points.
Right, yes, yeah. But he would not have won 6 altogether. I think he would have won 4. I think Gordon might have won 1 under the old system. I think Carl Edwards might have won 1 under the old system. But it is what it is. I mean, this is not the first time that NASCAR has made a major change to how it awards points. I mean, you know, back it used to be that your points were based on money won or laps completed. There were all kinds of different formula, and this is just the latest in a long line, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it is, and you're right, and I still have mixed emotions about it. The thing I will give them credit for, though, they've changed the car multiple times, and each time it probably drives different. There's a lot to work through to get it to go again, opposed to one car with a few changes for a lot of years. They've changed a lot of times in the last decade or however many years it's been, and he seems to achieve through all of it, and other people can't.
They seem to be at their best when things are a little bit unsettled.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they always seem to figure out how to be a half a step or more ahead of everybody else. Because the car tomorrow, they did pretty well in that. Not race wins, but championships. And, you know, with this car, they've won and done well with it. So that's the way it is. It's always something to talk about, though.
You're right. Like you said, they're always a step ahead, a half a step ahead. But when they're a half a step behind, they don't seem to panic. And that's a tremendous advantage, too.
Not a bit.
Worry about anything. Which, if you've been around racing, there's nothing like momentum and confidence and knowing things are going to come out your way before it's over if you keep digging. And evidently they have that. can only imagine, huh?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one last question. I'm going to let you go. Do you miss not having Maine lobsters down in Florida?
Absolutely.
Because they're not the same down there, are they?
They don't seem to be the same anywhere as Maine.
Oh, okay.
I bounced around a little bit, and when I was in North Carolina, I had a few different places. There were nice places, just didn't have the taste, and I found myself going to places that imported the lobsters once a week or a few times a week. Yeah, that's one thing you'll always miss when you're from that end of the country.
My brother-in-law used to live in Bath, Maine. He now lives in a place called Bryant Pond, which is over near Norway, wherever the hell that is. And he's a sea captain. He sails out of Boston a great deal. And I think every time he gets back, he flies into Portland, and his wife picks him up, and their first meal is a big lobster dinner. And he says there's nothing like it. So
that's tradition.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure you miss it.
Question.
All right.
How much did Al Pearce pay you for this job?
No. They're paying me. They're paying me to do it. They're taking me to dinner. They don't know it, but they're taking me to dinner.
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
What was that about? Something about CC's tonight?
No. We're going to the Chinese place.
Oh, okay.
All right. We're done.
I think we did good. Hey,
we didn't get to cover all the rest of the racing news.
That's all right. Pete knows her. Pete told us stories that are way better than
I know that.
anything I could tell.
Pete, I really appreciate your time, and
we are going to have him back on again.
Yeah, and we want to get you back on again, and we'll talk some more.
Listen, thanks for thinking of me. I really appreciate it, guys.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to do it, and I'll talk to you again soon.
But next time he's got to tell us a little bit more about Al.
No.
You're scared? Say you're scared.
Hell, if you don't know him by now, you're never going to know him.
All right, Pete, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
With friends like you, I don't need enemies. There you go.
Take care, guys.
All right, man.
Thank you. I lost my hat.
Oh, goodness. I know some of the guys got new rides. Dakota Armstrong's got RPM.
Yeah, that's going to the
Nationwide. Who else was it? Somebody else.
Well, you got the what's called going to two teams. The Swan Oil.
Yeah, Swan.
Kligerman and
Cole Witt.
Going to the Swan.
And what about Jeff Burton?
Jeff Burton got him 2 good jobs.
Yep. He's driving for
the 66
MWR doing testing and driving the 66 car, I think.
Yeah, a few races.
Yeah, they're saying 6 to 14 races possibly.
Yeah.
And
then NBC in 15.
And I think the reason why, from what I'm hearing, the reason why it took so long, there was one time there was a talk about NBC and all the stuff moving earlier than what they thought.
And conflict with
he was kind of, I think he was waiting that out, and then I think Michael has some sponsorship things that he was working on too. But
I didn't see that one coming. I was surprised about that.
Did you hear about this? About Johnson's trying to get McNabb in a race car?
Yeah.
That's so overblown. That's just
stupid. I'll tell you later, but it's just.
No, I mean the whole thing is stupid.
Yeah.
McNabb can do things Johnson could never do. Johnson could do things that McNabb can't do. Every athlete in the world does things that other athletes can't do. It's as simple as that.
Like I've said, I've talked to Tony Dorsett when we were down at Richmond one year, and he cannot believe how much energy these guys do, whether they're crew members, whether they're drivers. He said they're out there, they run a play for 10 seconds, and then they get to take a 30-second break. Then another 10-second play, they take a 30-second break, and then if they switch sides, then they're off the side of the field. He says they don't do that much.
It's just like a caution flag. You ride around 8 laps under caution. You ain't done nothing I can't do.
Yeah. And Tony Stewart, one of my favorite subjects. He's got return of his sponsors for a multi-year deal. So
it would have been news if he didn't have them back.
Yeah. Well, hey, we have Tony Stewart fans that like to listen. So what the heck? Oh goodness. I reckon we're going to go Chinese then.
We're going Chinese tonight.
All right. Well,
I've given you a month off. I've given you 4 weeks.
We have had to fill your shoes. You know that?
Hard to
Most
do.
of them were like 9 years old or under.
That's all right.
But we did talk with people about food, right?
Yep. Yeah,
make
We
sure.
we did an honorary segment.
Hey,
every
we
week
even
for you.
had one that took us to have pizza. One of
Yeah.
the sponsors of
One of the kids
Extreme
had,
Pizzas.
had pizza sponsor.
Should have been here.
Yeah.
Really? All right, everybody. We'll see you back next weekend on Let's Talk Racing.
Hey guys, I'm Daytona 500 winner Trevor Bain, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing.
Hi, I'm Robert Richardson Jr., driver of the number 23 Dodge Challenger for R3 Motorsports in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, and you're watching Let's Talk Racing.
I'm Tony Peter, driver of the number 17 Toyota in the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series, and you're listening to Let's Talk Racing.
Here's your 2011 champion, David Brehm.
Hi, this is David Polenz, driver of the 33 NASCAR Late Model, 2011 Old Dominion Speedway track champion. Thank you for watching Let's Talk Racing TV.
I'm Sam Hunt, driving the 42 car on the thing Let's Talk Racing.
Hi, my name is Natalie Sather. I drive the 94 K&N Lady Eagle Safety Wear, Butler built seats, bell helmets, hooker harness seat belts,